lights on the screen, hey, it's Grant and Ryan. We bleed purple, talking hoops, never lying. Sacramento Kings, we rise and we fall. If you don't like that, then you don't know ball. Jerry sitting with the stories of the game, spilling all the truth, driving legends insane. From the Cow Palace days to Arco's roar, this town's heart beats on the hardwood floor. If you don't like that, turn away now. Kings in our blood, we rise strong and proud. Running up the score, Kings never back down. If you don't like that, this ain't your town.
And we welcome you to our Kings Roundtable. Hope that you are having a good afternoon. If you missed Sean Salisbury an hour ago, go back and watch it at your leisure. We had a very interesting conversation as well. Ryan in Sacktown, Jerry Reynolds, join me as we talk about the Kings, who are making their way to New Orleans to play the Pelicans tomorrow, a team that they lost to often last year, 6 times. But this is a Pelicans team that is really beat up. So before we even talk about that game, Ryan, I'll start with you first and go to Jerry. How do you evaluate this Kings team now, 25 games into the season, as they stand at 12-13?
Grant, a team that's still trying to figure it out, but I'm looking at them in 2 different sample sizes. The sample size with Malik Monk, 5 games in the starting lineup, versus the team 20 games without Malik in the starting lineup, because it's a completely different style to a degree this team's playing. Jerry?
Couldn't agree more. I mean, there's no doubt that Malik has made this team better. And I think it's kind of some of the things we've talked about in the past. It's like whether he came off the bench as 6th man. My feeling always was he's one of your 4 best players. He should be playing 32, 34 minutes a game. And as the 6th man, he was averaging 26 minutes. Well, common sense tells you if you get one of your best players on the floor more, it might make you better. And certainly.
So with that said, though, let me interrupt you for a minute, because I do want to ask this, and maybe you were getting there. The Kings are currently 12th in the West, but they're not that far out of 6th. I mean, everything's bunched up just like last year. So is this a coaching mistake that Mike Brown made by waiting so long?
I think so. I hate second guess her, but I mean, to me, when you can see his ball handling skills, he's a better playmaker than Fox, really. But they fit well together. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, I mean, I think just the fact that, you needed him coming off your bench. I get that. But the point was the bench wasn't any good. You might as well make your starting 5 good. And by moving him in there, and then hope you can improve your bench differently, which of course they're trying to do. But yeah, I think it's one of those things that goes back to the 48-win season when everything went so well. And Malik was just finding his way in the league as a star type guy. And so it's just easy to stay with that, probably Coach Brown was very loyal to Kevin Huerter, as he should be. But there's a point where, is Kevin Huerter as good as Malik Monk? And I think your answer is no, he's not.
Yeah, and Jerry, it's a great point. The bigger mistake, too, would be if they were still running a ton of DHO and going through Sabonis with Malik in the starting lineup. Malik's assist-to-turnover ratio is 3.75. Sabonis's is 1.87. You see the offense being initiated a lot more through Malik right now, which is causing the ball movement and the better scoring, as we've seen.
Yeah, no question. I mean, that's one thing with Malik we saw, even off the bench. He was so effective with the screen rolls or finding Domas and Bills. And so we're seeing that now from a starting position. And as you pointed out, Domas isn't required to get 10 assists a game for this offense to flourish. And, you're getting your assist to turnover ratio differently. I mean, this is the first year that Domas's assist rate has been as poor as it is. But still, at the end of the day, it's working in every way you can ask, really.
Okay, so to me, another key is Kevin Huerter, who has a new role coming off the bench. In the last 2 games, that's the Kevin Huerter that you need, because the bench is still a weak part of this team, but he can make it significantly better if he can play the way he did the last 2 games.
Yeah, to me, it almost goes back. I mean, there's a couple things in play here. Obviously, he doesn't want to go to the bench. I mean, all players want to start, just like Malik did for years. But Kevin was a terrific off the bench player in Atlanta a few years ago when they were an Eastern Conference finalist. I mean, so it's a role he's had and had success. So I think that's helped him kind of get past, some of the issues. And then, as you guys both know, I mean, when you're coming off the bench, it's tougher in some ways to get into the game, but it's also true for a scorer. You're playing against second line guys a lot, and so that's different. Plus, you're also not being scouted the same way. Teams really focus on the starters as opposed to the bench, and so I think that's worked for Kevin. And the other part, the last part I'd say is that he's coming into the game knowing that, hey, I'm going to go score. I'm going to be aggressive and score. That's what they need. That's what my role is now. Not fit in. It's with the second unit. His job is to score more.
That's right, Jerry. And I thought Kevin said it the best after last game. He's like, I know exactly when I'm going to play and how much I'm going to play, which allows him to get ready, know what he's looking at on the film, obviously. And he has that, they say they're creatures of habits in the NBA. It's a good thing to know when your minutes are coming.
Yeah, I think certainly if you want a consistent bench player, they've got to have consistent minutes. I mean, I always say with Malik, he had consistent minutes. I always thought he ought to have more, but they were consistent. But I think that'll be good for Kevin because he may get the same minutes, but he'll get them differently. And, as opposed to kind of when he was struggling last year and early this year, kind of always looking for the hook.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, so it's tough to play that way.
And Grant,
let's talk about. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and Grant, to you, I think that's where the consistency with Mike Brown's bench stops. You don't know where the minutes are going to be after that, Napes.
Yeah, there's no question. It's been like that, and hopefully they can find a little stability because tomorrow, I think it's a very, very important game. It's a game that you absolutely should win because you're taking on a team that's been decimated by injuries. They only have 5 wins. That's number one. Number two, a win will get you to 500, and you're really not relevant in the West until you're at least 500. Like, you can't even be talking about a team. So listen, I know that New Orleans has got a lot of injuries, but they also have their starting backcourt together. Okay, so keep that in mind. Murray and McCollum are no picnic, all right? They can flat out get the job done. But the front line of the Pelicans right now, I think the Kings can really exploit, guys.
Yeah, I was wondering. I haven't heard any update on Murphy. Is he available or not?
I don't know.
And I mean, he's been a Kings killer.
He has been a Kings killer.
Yeah, really more than Ingram for the most part. And so that would be a key to me, because if you've got DeJounte Murray and McCollum and Murray and Murphy, I think that, there's always some concern there. That's for sure.
Well, I just looked at the latest injury report, and he's not on it.
He played against San Antonio, played 38 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know where I saw this that he had a little bit of a setback, but he did play 38 minutes. But I'm looking right now; he's not on the injury list, so that means he's playing.
He's playing, yeah. Well, he'll be a tough cover. I mean, I think Keegan probably matches up somewhat well with him, better than just about anybody. I mean, I'd hope if they really just put Keegan on him and leave him alone. Don't bother him with anybody else. Just focus on Murphy.
Yeah, the front line where the Kings can get a little bit more of an advantage is with Yves Missy. He's playing really good basketball at times. He had 18 points against San Antonio, but Domas can get him into foul trouble easily with the style of player he is. But conversely, he's at the rim. He can finish and catch the lobs. So that's that 50-50 ball that we never know how the Kings are going to play.
Yeah, I think too. It'd be interesting. Again, you got, like we just talked about, the bench, just who's going to get to play, who's going to step up a little bit. Obviously, I can see Isaac Jones being a factor in this game.
Great point.
He is a lively, athletic guy. Now, I don't know how much he'll get to play, but I think he fits the DNA of this game, I think.
Well, and you're taking on a team that's lost 9 of 10, and they have the worst record in the Western Conference. So, like, there's no excuse. I don't care. There's just no excuse not to win this game tomorrow. Plain and simple, there is no excuse. The Kings absolutely need to win this game tomorrow, period.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, you can't move up in the standings if you can't beat the bad teams. The Kings
Right.
are currently 12th. We feel they're much better. They've been playing better, but they're still 12th.
Yeah.
You pointed out, and they're under 500. So, the old saying, the record is who, it's who you are, and right now that's the way it is until it changes. And so they've got a chance to get it to 500 and go from there.
Yeah, and that's going to be as much about Mike Brown as it is the team to a degree. You got to come out with a little bit of a different game plan than you've had against New Orleans, just the DHO, because we've seen the length that's going to be there on the perimeter and at the guard positions. It's going to be there again tomorrow night, and that's going to bother things. So can he shuffle it up? Because Keegan Murray said, you have to win this game after what happened last season, 0-6.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if they're not really humiliated by all those losses and the dominance of them, and this is a chance. It's not exactly the same team for sure, but it doesn't make any difference. You can't beat these guys bad enough and long enough. Suit me.
Yep. All right. So there's been a lot of talk about, gee, this is really good for the Kings because they're getting a lot of rest. I actually look at it the other way. This is not when you want rest because you're now fully healthy, with the exception of Trey Lyles. To me, this is an advantage to the other teams to have this long break, like the Lakers, who are allowing, Austin Reeves extra days to get back onto the court, and they've really missed him. LeBron, with his issue with his foot. Other teams like Phoenix now, that they're not going to have a lot of games without Kevin Durant. See, I think it's an advantage for those teams. I don't think it's an advantage for Sacramento because they're healthy.
Well, absolutely. It's more of an advantage for teams that need guys to heal.
Yes.
There's no question about it. And then the other side of it is, I think with the Kings, you're hoping to get something out of it. Now, I was asked this question on a Kings Herald thing, and I was, my thoughts on the practice. They were saying, well, should they practice hard or just kind of take? I said, no, I think this is the time you practice really hard. You might not practice long, but you're going to practice hard, and because you're on a good run here, and so build on it. And it really, it's where a coach has got a chance to be a little bit of a shitbird because guys are more inclined to want to hear it right now.
Yeah. Hey, Dennis, I didn't say Devin Carter because he's not, you don't talk about a guy that's never played before. So that's why I didn't mention his name. Rhino, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Jerry here in a sense that you've got DeMar and Malik, who have both sat out over the last couple days, getting some rest, getting right. DeMar's had the back issue. But you have young guys in this rotation that need valuable practice time, hard practice time, like Jerry said, where you can get the Isaac Jones mixed in. Keon's going to need it to a degree as well. It's been a focus on the fundamentals the last couple days in that building, and that's been one of the bigger problems for this team. So, yeah, bigger advantage other teams. It values the Kings right now, though.
We'll see. We're going to find out. We'll find out. We can talk all we want about practice, this and that. We'll find out here with how they look in their next couple of games. Because tomorrow, listen, if we're on the post-game show talking about a Kings loss, that's going to be a disaster. I'm just telling you, it's going to be a disaster.
Well, on 3 days rest, they're shooting 20% from beyond the arc. So let's hope they break that streak, Jerry.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, that's been where they've been back to back. They didn't shoot it well either. So yeah. I don't know. I think they're on the right track now, it seems like. But, that's such a key for this team is to shoot the three ball better. Simple as that. You can't win in this league without productive 3-point shooting. You don't have to shoot 50 of them, but you have to be productive with them.
And you got to stop it once in a while, too.
Yeah.
So that is an ongoing issue. We'll see. The next 4 games are interesting because after tomorrow, you don't play again for several days against Denver. And Denver is Jekyll and Hyde right now. They can be really good, but they can also have shown this year they can be really bad. They just lost to Washington, who had lost 16 games in a row. And then the very next night, Denver goes into Atlanta and clobbers them. So I don't know about Denver. And then you have the Lakers back-to-back at home with the day off. And with them, it really comes down to health. Who's going to be playing?
Yeah, you're at that stage of the season now. Every team is certainly, they've played enough games, so we kind of know who they are. But as you point out with Denver, watched them. I mean, that's a thin team. Now they got Aaron Gordon back, but it's still their bench. They don't have the bench they used to have. And really, Jokic has got to get 40, 15,
Bingo.
and 15, and he's the best player in the league. But that's asking too much on a nightly basis, you know. I mean, so I like I say, they're vulnerable this year. I mean, with Jokic and with a coach like Malone, I mean, you know they're going to be in the hunt, but I don't think they're in the championship hunt.
Yeah, a lot of times Sabonis and Jokic in the last few meetings have canceled each other out. In many ways, the two games I'm looking at are the ones that you said, Grant. I'm looking ahead of the schedules. I know you're not supposed to do, but the back-to-back games with the Lakers feel so much like the early midterm for this team. It feels like the time late last season that they played the Mavericks back-to-back. Now, different scenario because the Kings have struggled at the beginning of this season. And that to me is what's really going to set a tone for this run, how those two games play out.
I'm with you. I think those are going to be crucial games, the rivalry, the fans. There's going to be a lot of Laker fans in the building, all of that. I want to get to this. My question is, Grant, you think that Carter is not going to come in and impact this team and improve it? I don't know. I thought Marvin Bagley was going to come in and impact the team. I thought Thomas Robinson was going to come in and impact the team. I don't put in a lot of faith, not faith. I don't put in stock in the players that have never played before. Okay. Tyrese Halliburton was much, much better than people thought, or else he wouldn't have fallen as far as he did in the draft. Okay. I can go on with examples both ways. I respect the hell out of Jerry and the people that Jerry's talked to that have all told him they think that the Kings got a hell of a player. But, you know, I heard the same thing about Thomas Robinson when the Kings took him fifth. I heard the same thing about Marvin Bagley. You don't know how a college player is going to adapt to the next level. Some guys can do it. Some guys can't. So I can't sit here on December 11th and look into my crystal ball and say, yeah, when he comes back, he's going to impact the team. I would say it's more unlikely than likely that he impacts the team this year based on the fact that he will have no experience, very little practice time, and has to acclimate himself into the middle of a season. And here's the other aspect. If the Kings happen to get on a roll and are playing better, I think it's going to be more difficult for him.
Well, I'll tell you this too, Grant. I agree with all that because the thing I've said all along about him, and I've got reason to have some confidence that he's an awfully good player, but that doesn't mean he will be. But here's the thing. If, in fact, and this is a big if, here a rookie can come in and be a productive player without a summer league, no preseason, coming into the middle of the year in a playoff drive and just be a productive player. I don't mean a difference maker.
That would be a big time positive, boy.
That means you got a real player. I mean, and so to expect, even you can't expect that for anything. But I mean, to me, at best, if he's really good and what you hope he is, he'll make the bench better. That's the best of the worlds.
Jerry, how much of his pedigree, being the son of an NBA player, veteran Anthony Carter, goes towards him having a positive ability to maybe step in and play well because of what he's been around his entire life?
I think it's a big help. I really do. I mean, you know, growing up around it, you know, look at Jalen Brunson, Steph Curry.
Yep.
You can go down. I mean, guys that grew up around the game, they're not as intimidated by it. He certainly knows the NBA game, even though from afar he knew it as a kid growing up and a teenager and a whole bit. So I think that will help him. He won't be as overwhelmed as maybe someone else would be. So
I agree.
Yes, I think it's going to come down to how good can he be and how soon can he get there?
Well, here's the other question. Do they send him to Stockton to get a few minutes in before he comes up to the team?
Well, I hope they do. I know he's, working out.
I'd be shocked if they didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it'd be a wasted opportunity if you didn't to get him really game conditions against other, NBA level players and get a few games under his belt. If he could get 60, 80 minutes under his belt, that'd make up for a lot of what he what he lost during the summer league and preseason.
And some
Hey,
minutes
don't
with
forget tomorrow on the postgame show, I got a rant with Grant brought to you by EDH Motors Automotive Reimagined. If you're looking at a new vehicle this Christmas, go see EDH Motors, Mercedes, Land Rover, Toyota, whatever brand you're looking for. EDH Motors can get it for you, and you never have to step foot into your typical franchise dealership. Saves you money and time, and guess what? You may even have a little fun. Just go to edhmotors.com. You can check out their inventory. They've got a little bit of everything from exotics, Highline, classics, economy. And if they don't have what you're looking for, folks, they'll go get it. You'll take delivery at their beautiful auto lounge in the El Dorado Hills Town Center. Again, that is EDH Motors Automotive Reimagined. Go to edhmotors.com. And don't forget my rant tomorrow. A rant with Grant. Give me your ideas. That's right. That's coming up tomorrow on the postgame show.
Yes, indeed. Before you mentioned EDH, I was just going to say you've got some of the guys that are in the bench unit for Sacramento that are also going back and forth with Stockton, so he'd get some time on the floor with them as well, Isaac specifically.
Well, so it's a wonderful setup, really, with the team so close, and they, practice here for the most part, or in Sacramento, and the coaches and are real close. So yeah, it's just ideal. I mean, they're using it, like you should, like a AAA baseball team or something like that.
They're near the top of the G League. The way this franchise has been run the last 2-3 years, they made the Western Conference Finals last year, but just the front office. We talked about this a couple shows ago. The fact that in collaboration with Sacramento's, but Gabriel Harris down in Stockton, they've identified 2 undrafted players and polished them, developed them into guys that are now getting minutes in the NBA and having impacts.
That's a great point. I mean, it's obviously they were picked up by Monty McNair and his staff, but I think equally important is they, really didn't waste a lot of time with them just sitting on the Kings bench, making sure that they were getting playing time, instruction in Stockton. That's what the Kings, or that's what the G League is for, and that's one of those things that always said, was especially small market teams really need to find a way to find guys and develop guys, much like small market baseball teams do.
All right, let's look at the standings in the West, and let's talk about 7-10 right now, with the Kings currently in 12th. All right, you have Denver at 12-10, 7th, then the Lakers at 13-11, Minnesota is 9th, and Phoenix is 10th, all records of 12-11. Out of those 4 teams, Jerry, or let me say out of those 2 teams, 2 teams out of the 4, Denver, the Lakers, Minnesota, and Phoenix, which 2 do you think are the better teams?
Well, I'd still put Denver probably there just because of Jokic and Coach Malone, really, and what they've done in the past. I really think Phoenix should be
when they're healthy, right? When they're all on the floor. But that never happened, right?
That's a big if, of course. And
yeah.
But with Durant, with Durant healthy, I think they are definitely that team.
Rhino?
It's hard to leave Minnesota out, guys. They are giving up the least amount of 3-pointers a game, 11. And you've got Anthony Edwards. You've got Julius Randle, who they're trying to seem to figure it out. Who knows if they come and put a creator in there. I just feel like they are more likely to stay than Phoenix just because of what you guys said with the injury problems there.
Do you think they regret the Karl Anthony Towns trade? All right, now we have a pretty good sample size. They're 12-11. Towns is playing great with the Knicks. They're playing well. They're 15-9. So it's a trade that currently has really helped out the Knicks and has not helped out Minnesota.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt so far. I mean, the Knicks won that trade. There's in my mind now, there's a lot of games left to play, but Randall hasn't been fit in as seamlessly. I do think that he and Edwards seem to cross paths a little bit. I mean, they're both ball stoppers and one-on-one guys. And DiVincenzo has not played anywhere near as well.
No,
he played in New York. So that's another part of it. And that'd be my thing. I'm just not sure if it's going to be, I can see where it could fit. And then the last part I'd say, Mike Conley is not quite Mike Conley anymore.
No,
nailed it.
No.
And that guy was, great playmaker, leader. And I don't, age takes its toll, and he's still good, but he's not special like he was.
I look at Minnesota as being in the same position Phoenix was in last year, where they just need that Tyus Jones. They need that distributor because that's what improves DiVincenzo too. DiVincenzo is not that guy to distribute. You bring that guy in, that changes the entire formula for what Minnesota does.
Yeah, Dante was really good with Jalen Brunson,
right?
And Josh Hart. I mean, and he may not be able to find that level again.
All right, then you have at the top. I mean, Oklahoma City, they're not going anywhere. I think we can all agree on that, right? I think they're the best team in the West. Memphis is really rolling. Memphis has won 9 of 10, and they are now 17-8. Personally, I don't think they're going anywhere. I think they're a legit team. Houston is 16-8. Am I ready to say Houston's a top 4 team in the West? I'm not yet, personally. I think Dallas will finish ahead of them. Dallas is 16-9. Then you have Golden State 5th and the Clippers 6th. I'm not sold at all on the Clippers. I give them a lot of credit at 14-11. The wild card there is Kawhi Leonard. Is he coming back? How will he be? How long can he play? But I think the Clippers, based on what they've done, I'm very impressed with them to be 14-11. And Golden State 14-9. To me, if Steph Curry's healthy, they're going to be fine. Maybe not great, but they're going to win more games than they're going to lose.
Agree there. I mean, with Golden State, Curry's the key.
And they have a great bench.
Terrific bench. And certainly Curry's using it. I think they're going to be in the playoff hunt. I don't know that I can see them in the top 4. I think they'll slide there a little bit. But, I probably do like Houston a little better. I still think I'd put Dallas ahead of them. I think
I would too.
When the time comes, they've been there, done that, and they've got, they're going to be a tough out. Whether they're as good as OKC this year or not, I don't know. But I think that's your 1-2. And then, but I think Houston, just because they're so tough defensively and bring it every night, I think they might be there. And then the thing on Memphis, that team is so well coached, and they play, and they've got a great bench. And how would the Kings like to have Santi Aldama? How about that one?
Oh boy, no kidding.
Yeah, it's a great point. And all the while, Ja Morant's still developing his 3-point shot. Imagine if he throws that into the mix there in Memphis. Dallas, it's hard to argue with. Golden State, I think, is the team to watch, as both of you said. I think they're going to be big-time buyers at the trade deadline. And I think they are going to be looking for a significant piece, maybe a BI potentially. So that kind of gives me some questions. And then LA, the Clippers, I'm with Grant. Kawhi Leonard, I don't think you can count on him. Is there a future now in LA for him? I just don't see them hanging in, maybe playing at best.
Yeah, if he's healthy and plays, then they're a contender. But that's
it's a big if.
You just can't say that. I was reading where he's basically starting to practice now, but still no contact or anything. So so that's
that tells you a lot.
And to your point, Rhino, about Golden State being a buyer, I do believe that they've got more guys they can play. They've got some assets, and it would worry me. Rumors are that Jimmy Butler is trying to angle out of Miami and would like to play in Dallas, Houston, or Golden State. And I don't want him in any of those places.
No, that would not be good for Sacramento, that's for sure. Hey, I want to tell you about Bennett's. Don't forget, you can celebrate the holidays with their happy hours daily, 2 to 6. Sacramento, Roseville, the West Side Grill in Rockland, their Sips and Taste. Great share plates, excellent prices on your wine during the happy hour 2 to 6. They have 60 different types of wine available by the glass. Prime seafood and steak at Bennett's. Go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com to make a reservation. That's Bennett'sRestaurants.com. Yeah, I'm with you. I think Jimmy Butler could put one of those teams over the top. I really believe that.
Oh, I do too. I don't know where would be his best fit. I kind of think it'd be Houston.
I do too.
Agree.
I think he and Ime Udoka, the way Ime coaches, is tailor-made for Butler. I think he would be tremendous for the Rockets. Now, I don't know what they'd have to give up, but I could see that being a big-time fit there.
Yeah, to get him, obviously, it's going to take to give up somebody with a pretty high salary and draft picks and all. But if they could somehow, get him for some combination of Dillon Brooks and picks and maybe somebody else, I mean, that would be, automatically you would put him in there instead of Dylan Brooks, and you're a contender for everything.
Well, I just can't see Dylan Brooks being in a Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra team. No, I just can't. Right, Jerry?
No, no, I agree with you. I'd almost like to see it just to see how long it take for Pat to break his spirit a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, he has. I mean, he's commingled and worked well with Jimmy Butler. Jimmy's kind of a different personality.
Yeah, no, he is. You're right. And I mean, Pat, certainly that's the thing with Eric Spoelstra and Riley. They're on the same page, and I think that's been a real advantage for Eric, is because Pat will do the dirty work and explain things to guys.
Well, Sham Charania reporting that, according to Tristan, and I had seen this too, that Butler is open to the trade with the Suns, the Mavs, the Warriors, and the Rockets. A couple of things about that. They'll trade him where they want to trade him to. I mean, and if Jimmy wants out of Miami, he'll figure it out. But if you're the Kings, you do not want Jimmy Butler in the West. You do not want him in the Western Conference with a team that's currently ahead of you in the standings. You just that is not good.
Can we just say this for the record too? And you don't want him in Sacramento either.
I'll tell you, you know what?
Yeah.
I would say, of all of the players that we keep talking about over and over again, I'd have Butler higher on my list than a lot of the other names that I keep hearing. And what do we keep saying about the Kings year after year after year? They're soft, they're this, they're that. He would change a lot of that.
Yeah, depending on what you had to give up. But I mean, let's just say this, and I love DeMar DeRozan, but if you could trade DeMar DeRozan for Jimmy Butler,
there you go.
I think you do it.
I'll pick him up at the airport.
Well, yeah, he makes you better, and there's certainly nothing that DeMar's done that it's bad. But I mean, Butler's a better player.
But guys, isn't that the only scenario? There's no team where DeMar DeRozan and Jimmy Butler works with the current formula in Sacramento.
Don't see how, really.
Yeah.
No. And that probably, when you look at Dallas or even a Phoenix, I mean, they'd almost have to move, say, a Bradley Beal, which of course that would be a bonus anyway, Bradley. But if you could get Jimmy Butler in Phoenix for Bradley Beal and a pick or something like that, because contractually it'd work, then all of a sudden they're significantly better.
The team that I think is very interesting to keep an eye on what they're going to do, depending on where they're at in the standings, is going to be the Lakers.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, that whole thing, it's starting to get into little issues here. And with LeBron, the rumors even that he might go to Golden State. I'd almost like to see
I don't
it,
see that.
I don't either. I'd like to see it just because I don't think it'd work, but that's okay.
I don't either.
For either team. Might be the double
I don't
whammy we're looking for.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, another team that we haven't been talking about that plays in the East, because they really have had a bad first 24 to 25 games, are the Bucks. Milwaukee is starting to look like the real Milwaukee Bucks, guys, and the Kings have yet to play them. They're going to play them twice. That's another thing about the Kings. They need to start playing better, and they have, because they haven't played Cleveland yet. They haven't played Boston yet. They haven't played Orlando. They haven't played the Knicks. They haven't played Milwaukee. And you can say all you want about the East being an inferior conference, and it is, but all of those teams that I just mentioned, I'd put them ahead of Sacramento, right?
Well, and two, I mean, you look at, Boston,
maybe not Orlando right now with their injuries, but
with their injuries, and I mean, and when they're healthy, I mean, they're really good. I mean, but the truth is, maybe the two best teams in the league are in the East, with Cleveland and Boston. And I mean, Oklahoma City could very well be better than both, but they really haven't done quite enough yet. But anyway, the East has got 4 or 5 good teams. They don't have 12. That's the difference.
Are you gentlemen sold on Cleveland? Do you see a scenario where they could be Atlanta from 5-6 years ago, where you win a ton of games in the regular season and then it just doesn't work in the postseason?
I think they're for real. I'm not saying they're going to beat Cleveland, but I and I mean the Knicks are scary, but the coach there has done a great job, and really what he's done, he's allowed Evan Mobley to become a star, which is what, before it just didn't happen. It was just guard ball. And so, yeah, I think they're for real. I think Atkinson's just done a marvelous job there.
I think they are as well. I mean, there's a lot to like about them. They're really good on the road. They've only lost one home game. All
Yeah.
right. They're 21-4. That's not a fluke. When you're already good and you have a year where you start off 21-4 and you have a point differential of basically 10. I mean, that tells you a lot.
Yeah, only team in the association with a .800 winning percentage or higher.
But that says a lot.
Yep.
That says a lot. And then, you look at Sacramento and I look at their schedule and I'm with you. I think that the games coming up a little bit later this month, those two games against the Lakers could really send this team off and running, confidence-wise, everything else, because the schedule after the first of the year gets much, much more difficult.
Yeah, I think a key, like say, just start feeling good about yourself, winning some games, and then more importantly, when some of these really elite teams come into Sacramento, you got to beat them.
Yes.
Going back to the home thing again. I mean, the Clevelands, the Milwaukees, the Bostons, you got to beat those teams.
Yeah, you better hope that De'Aaron Fox doesn't get hurt because this team's going to fall flat on their face if Fox gets hurt. And again, you have to look at his history during his career. He's never played 82 games. I'm hoping he can this year, but even if he were to miss 4 or 5 games, this would be a very challenging time for the Kings.
Oh yeah, no question. I mean, he's a guy that can, on bad nights, can get 22, 24 points, and I think the only thing for a short span, you're better prepared to play without him now due to Monk being in than you were before. But even that's a short span, 2 or 3 games.
Grant, I go back to what you've been saying for 2 years. The Kings need a true point guard, and Malik Monk's not a true point guard, but he's playing that role right now with a little bit of scoring.
He is, and that's been great. And you hope that can continue. But you look at all the teams in the West that have been affected by injuries, the Kings themselves. The Kings lost some games they wouldn't have lost because of injuries. Look at Phoenix. Look at all the games they've lost because they didn't have Durant on the floor. And you can go on and on. So that's something you can't forecast. I mean, I'm surprised that Oklahoma City has played as well as they have without Holmgren, but that also coincided with Hartenstein coming back.
Right.
And he's been huge for them. He's really playing well.
That guy is good. He doesn't look good. He just is good.
He is good.
And, one of those kind of guys. But, yeah, I was going to say it's kind of the thing, too, with Monk, I think. We always hear guys, well, who's going to jump on guys? Who's going to kind of be a leader? Who's going to have something to say to people? Well, Monk's the guy.
Right.
I mean, it's not that he brings a really a joy to the floor. I mean, more than any other player. And, and then plus, not only will he get on and argue with players occasionally or get in discussion, but he will with the coach too. I mean,
that's right.
He's equal opportunity. But I think it's important for this team to have a guy like that, just really brings the joy of playing and competing and kind of getting snippy with refs and opponents and coaches and teammates. You got to have that if you're going to win.
Yeah, it was funny at media day when he was asked, do you feel like you can speak up more now that you got paid? And he said, yeah, I think so. And I'm thinking, how can Malik Monk speak up even more now? He's been that guy.
I think we're starting to see it. And as his confidence grows and so anyway, but as Grant said, I mean, these next few games we'll know a lot more.
Yep. Don't forget, tomorrow we've got the pregame show with Rhino. We've got halftime with us 3, and then the postgame show. Rhino, you doing a Kings Court at 2:00 tomorrow?
I am indeed. We'll be right here too.
So there you have it. 2:00 tomorrow, the Kings Court, and then we got the Kings and the Pelicans. We got full coverage right here on If You Don't Like That. Guys, some final thoughts. Jerry, we'll start with you. But the Kings seem to be playing a better right now. I'm a little the Houston game sticks out in my mind as a really good game. And the Memphis game wasn't bad. They didn't make shots. They didn't stop the 3. I don't take a lot into the San Antonio and Utah games. I just don't. But I do think the team's playing better heading into this stretch.
Oh, I do too. I mean, the ball movement, to me, it's just as simple as I really have enjoyed watching them play a lot more, which really, before their first 15, 18 years, they weren't much fun to watch.
Yeah.
Ball stoppages, and of course, missing a lot of shots, taking tough shots, really not knowing who's going to play. So, yeah, I think they're close to getting back on track to where we all thought they could be. They're not there yet, but they're moving in that direction.
Yep.
Yeah, and to your point, Jerry, the pace, the Kings are getting up 9 more shots per game in the last 5 games. If you exclude the outlier with the last one, it's still 8 more shots per game. And so when they play at that higher pace, the ball moves, as you said, and everybody gets to eat a little bit.
That's a good point right there. We look forward to having you on here tomorrow, Jerry. Always good when you can join us. Thank you very much. Rhino, 2:00 tomorrow, the King's Court, and then I'll talk to you with Jerry at halftime. To everyone else, thank you for joining us here on the King's Roundtable. We appreciate that. And I also want to point out there is merch available for you at my website, Team Store, right? The Grant Napier website. If you don't like that.com or grantnapier.com, you can get your merch for this holiday season. If you don't like that.com shop, or grantnapier.com will get you there. Check out the items available this holiday season for your merch. Talk to you tomorrow, everybody. Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.